Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. We are so glad that all of our viewers decided to join us today. And with us, I have one of those guests that are like, oh, I cannot wait for the world to get to know her. Before I officially introduce our guest today, I would like to share a little bit about our program. So, the word Sagion, all by itself, means carriers of wisdom. So our desire here at Sagionic 1027 is how do we bring people on deck that have functioned in what I classify as a spirit of excellence, that has been driven. It doesn't necessarily have to be a business owner. It could be, and it doesn't necessarily have to be someone who's been in the same field for X amount of decades, right? So just different people that are highlighted to me, bring them up on set, and then we get to squeeze out of them their wisdom insight. So, with that being said, today our guest is Miss Sarah Emerson, and she is a songwriter, she's a musician, she's a financial consultant, she's a worship leader, and she's a real estate agent. So, talk about taking possession and dominion of the real estate as an heir. So, welcome, 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 Sarah Emerson,
Thank
to Sagionic 1027. Today's program is all about you and just different things that have occurred in your life that you think would be a source of strength and encouragement to others. So, what's on your mind
Awesome.
today?
Thank you so much. First off, Shawn, thank you so much for having me. Just a little background for any viewers here. Shawn met my mom and they connected, and Shawn has been praying for me ever since. And so you're amazing, Shawn. Thank you for all that you do, your gorgeous smile, your support. Not only, do we see that right now, but you're really that way behind the scenes and just cheering people on. So, I mean, kudos to you for that. So, thanks so much for having me on your show today. I hope that somebody gets something great out of this. So, we'll see how it goes.
Yep, yep,
um,
absolutely. So, share with us a little bit about, you said you were a worship leader. Okay, so if you're a worship leader, you didn't just become a worship leader. Go back in your life and say how music began to rise up in you.
oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously, even when you introduced me, it's like I have all these different things that I do. I'm definitely a multi-potentialite, as they would like to say. And I think just really quickly before answering your question, I think a lot of us had to kind of um, be resilient, especially when COVID came around. Just looking for ways to survive, pay your bills, move forward in life, and without, um, you know, drowning under essentially what could have been like a major collapse for a lot of businesses. So, a lot of those little titles, I think, came out, especially real estate and stuff like that, when COVID hit. And so, thankfully, but let's talk about worship because just as a foundation for our lives, I thank God that that was something when I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 19 years old. He really birthed in me a heart of worship. And speaking of my mom, she's such a worshiper as well. So growing up, we always had worship music playing in the house and things like that. I wouldn't have been able to articulate it at a young age, but having that presence, growing up in the presence of God, essentially, without knowing what that was, really made me feel at home in God's presence. So I didn't serve God growing up. I made poor decisions. I really wasted a lot of time in high school and junior high just trying to figure out who I was and partying and just trying to hang out with the cool kids and things like that. So when I gave my heart to Jesus when I was 19, I remember, um, it's like when I walked into the church and I was in that atmosphere of worship, it brought me back to my childhood, to home, where that was God's presence. And there was such a peace in it, and there was such a joy in it that it was, I didn't understand, but I knew I was home, and I just knew I needed to give my heart to Jesus. So that was a big, draw to open up my heart to Him. With music and worship, it's kind of hard to explain, except that when I gave my heart to the Lord at 19, I just had such a, I was born again.
Uh-huh.
If anybody ever had like a dramatic born again experience, where you knew what it was like to feel dead, and then you had a moment where you encountered God, and then you knew what it was like to feel alive. That was me. That was me wholeheartedly. After I gave my heart to Jesus, I could not stop singing, and I was so happy. I always had a song in my heart. So, yeah, it was like God gave me a song. So I just knew, I was like, I want to learn how to play guitar and things like that. So I started learning, and growing up, I always had a leaning towards poetry and writing. And I kind of attribute that to my grandmother. She wrote so many songs. She has books and books and books and books of songs. And she would sing walking around the house and stuff like that. Really phenomenal, like revelation type songs for church. She would, she went to this really small church, and she'd raise her hand and be like, I have a song for the congregation, and they would call her up and she would sing her song. Yeah.
No, wait,
And her name was...
I'm gonna pause you for a second, because
Yeah.
everybody who has personally encountered me, my brain thinks in songs.
Oh,
I think
amazing.
in song, and so I am.
You and my grandma would have been kindred spirits.
Okay,
for sure.
But your grandmother showed you how to partner with vision because she wrote it down.
Yes,
She
absolutely.
wrote the songs down. Okay,
Yes, she did. Book
continue.
after book after book. Yeah.
Wow.
Amazing. The best part about my grandmother about this legacy that she left, was my aunt. When my grandmother started suffering with dementia, but she remembered all of her songs. So my aunt actually recorded her in her 80s singing a whole bunch of the songs.
Oh.
So I have a CD of my grandma singing her songs. It's so amazing. It's so precious. Yeah. And they're all amazing, like songs for church. I'm like, they're like little hymns.
Yes. Yes.
So amazing. So, yeah, I mean, I started writing, I learned 2 little chords on the guitar, and songs started coming out. I started writing song after song after song after song. And yeah, so, I mean, I got saved when I was 19, so I was a little bit older, but I joined an internship at my church at the time. And I think because of my personality, I think because I was outgoing and stuff like that, they didn't know if I could sing. I kind of couldn't. But they were like, go lead worship, you know?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay. So next thing I knew, I was leading worship for like intern prayer situation. And it was like, okay. And so I tried to start working on my voice more, and tried to make it, bearable to be in a worship service with me. So, that's that.
Okay. So now let's think of this for a second. Okay. So I need a visual. What am I going to use as a visual? We're going to use this. Okay. So your grandmother sang all those songs as your mom was growing up. Okay. This is your mom. As your mom was growing up, your grandmother sang over her. Oh, wait a minute. Who was inside of her mom? Oh, that would be Sarah. You were inside of your mom. So you heard all of the melodies from your grandmother. Have you ever thought about that? You heard, because although you were in egg form, right?
Yeah, wow.
It was still as it think of how transmitter, right? How sounds
Mhm.
transmit. The
Mhm.
sounds, because even a baby in a mother's womb. Okay, we think of John the Baptist. John the Baptist leaped when he came into the presence of Mary, who was going to
Mhm.
have Jesus. Okay, you
Mhm.
were in your mother's womb chamber, aka
Yeah.
her ovary, as your grandmother sang. So
That's amazing. Yeah, that's an amazing thought.
yes, your grandmother was investing into her children's children each time
So
she
beautiful.
sang a song.
Mm, amazing. Truly.
Wow, that is so
I
cool.
love that thought. Yeah.
It just came to me.
Yeah. It's so beautiful.
So how old were
I
you
love that.
when you did your first recorded song?
Yeah. Okay, so I worked with little like friends who had little recording studios in their basement. I kind of did a few little things like that. But for real, my church, I want to say it was like 2008 or so. They asked us, does anybody have any songs that we're gonna like maybe make an album? And I was like, oh my gosh, I do have songs, but I've never shown anyone. So, all that to be said, I nervously showed them a song I wrote that I thought maybe we could sing in church. I mean, it was like based off of a scripture, so probably could. And yeah, they loved it. My friend John Leong helped me finish up the bridge, and we recorded it. So that was in 2009. Was my real first like recording, like professional recording. I was so nervous. People talk about anxiety. I still laugh at the thought of like how nervous I was. I was in the bathroom, like crying from nervousness, like right before recording it. I do not know what was wrong with me. I was just like, I don't know. I was like, God, please, I think it was just so nerve wracking. Like, not only was I going to sing on an album, which I wasn't that confident with my voice, but I was also going to sing a song I wrote. I'm like, what if everyone hates this? I don't know if I can bear the weight of like putting myself out there so much. So they we released the CD and the song did okay. It did pretty well. Yeah, it got picked up by a label actually, and Susan Ashton ended up re-recording the song and like doing a music video to it and everything. I didn't even know who Susan Ashton was. I like wasn't a Christian when she was
Okay. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
big.
I don't know who she is, and I've been a Christian since 1984. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I don't know who she is
Some
either.
people thought she was this huge star. So I was
Okay.
like, oh my gosh, like I was so happy that. And people all over started covering it and things like that. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I never would have thought that like God could use little old me and something like that. And so that was like a fluke. I mean, nobody records their first song and has it like
Uh
go
huh.
nuts.
Uh huh.
So that was such a blessing. I do hope that I'll be able to record more worship and, um, you know, if the Lord
So
allows.
how do songs come to you? Okay, because another thing that we're doing here at Sagionic 1027 is teaching people how to partner with the creative realm. Okay, so how do songs come to you? Because is it, do you see something out here? Do you hear like ding a certain tone? how do they come to you, and how do you decide to say, let's run with this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think there's literally a different answer for every song. So
Okay.
there are some times where, in all honesty, I can hear a song. It's like just repeating in my spirit or my heart or my mind or whatever. And I'll have to just record it, like I'll take my phone and record down whatever that little chunk is that's
Uh-huh.
like going on. But like sometimes I'm sitting at the piano or guitar, or whatever, playing just a chord progression, and I'll start to hear a melody and sing that or whatever. But then um, I think the best songs maybe come when I have like, it's almost like I haven't just an idea. Like I have an idea about something I want to say. And, I'll just sit down and discipline myself and flesh it out essentially. So, um, those are the funnest, I think,
Okay.
because you can start to mull over, like, I like to imagine like different metaphors and like similes and things like that that would um, bring to life this idea. Like, how can I say this one thing and show people, paint a picture for people, for it in different ways. Um, yeah. And like when the song is actually coming together, then it feels just like a piece of art. you know?
Oh, yes.
So,
That's really good. Recently I just interviewed Lisa Henderson, Lesa, Lisa
okay.
Henderson, and she actually, I did not know she was a producer. Okay,
Oh, wow.
until something just randomly popped up on my Facebook page, and I read what it was, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And I was like, hey girlfriend, do you want to do an interview? After she said she wanted to do an interview, then I learned about her. But she said yes first, right? So she was the producer of a movie called Hope Has a Name.
Oh,
Hope has a name. Okay, she
yes.
she produced that movie. And
Amazing.
so when I was talking to her through the interview, she said there are two different styles of writers. One is, and she named it, and I don't remember, okay, but the other
Hmm.
is intuitive. And she learned that she is an intuitive writer because
Mm.
you've got the other is somebody who, okay, we're going to say in, chapter, let's say it's a 10 chapter book. In this chapter, it's going to be about this. The next chapter is going to be about this. The next chapter is going to be about this. Well, her brain didn't think like that,
Hmm.
right? Her brain didn't have everything developed all at once. Her brain intuitively moved and navigated through. And then
Interesting.
and then if you think of her movie, Hope Has a Name, that's because she was going to navigate through all of these different sceneries across throughout the world in interviewing all of these different people. So I'm just like, as,
Wow.
as if potentially a creator of the universe has people think differently.
Oh, yeah. What a shock.
Okay,
Hmm.
so share with us. You mentioned a little bit about COVID and the challenging times throughout COVID.
Yeah.
So share with us how you were drawn towards real estate.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I was interested in real estate actually right out of college. I
Okay.
did want to go into it. Um, I was scared at the time. Also, it was like extra school, and I hate to say that I am not a huge fan of school, but it's real. I just when I was done with college, I was so done. I'm like, okay, I need to just travel, and I did end up doing like a project overseas anyway. But so COVID gave me a chance to kind of revisit because I was working as an assistant for a long time, and I was always seeing other people in careers that were making them money, and They were, they just had the world open to them, you know, and I didn't grow up, with a lot of, I did have a lot of opportunity. My parents were amazing at like making sure that I was um, getting a lot of opportunity creatively. But financially, I just didn't have the training and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what type of job I could get that would make me money to live. And, um, I come from a family where it's like the woman stays at home and the husband goes out and works and provides, and that's that. There's nothing beyond that. And I that was not my path, you know. I've been taking care of myself, and that's just been my journey. So I had to figure out what I could do as a woman in this world that would make me money so that I could take care of myself. And so um, I was a nanny forever, then I was an assistant and, working with music and stuff like that. But I'm like, especially when COVID happened, because I got furloughed, I was an
Uh-huh.
assistant and I got like my hours got reduced. And I'm like, okay, I need to be on the top where I'm not so dependent on someone else. Like I need an assistant, How do
Yes.
I get an assistant? So, with real estate, looking into that, and COVID gave me the time to actually go get my license, take the classes, things like that. So, yeah, I mean, that's really where that went. Right before I got furloughed, I was an assistant for a real estate agent.
Okay.
So, and I was doing marketing for this boutique agency. So got my foot in the door. I got my appetite wet. I was watching everyone's commission checks come in, and I'm like, okay, I'm next.
That is so
I am
good.
next.
That is so good. That is so good, Sarah, because I can't tell you how many people I've interviewed, right? That have said basically, here's the top. This is as far as this position goes. Okay, it doesn't mean the position's bad. It doesn't mean the boss is bad. It doesn't mean anything other than this is the position. This is how far you can go with the position.
Hmm.
And time again, people have said, I had to go past the position. So how am I going to go past the position? And basically, that's what you just shared. So
Hmm.
now I know because somebody I interviewed, hold on, I got to pull up her book. Somebody I interviewed, my sister, my blood sister, Danielle Candy
Oh,
Sims. Her book is Hope Realized. Okay, Hope Realized. Oh, beautiful, beautiful.
so
But
cool.
Danielle, in the midst of having 4 kids, went to school to get a real estate license, and the people around her mocked her in the industry, thinking she wasn't
Mm.
very intelligent,
Mm.
and she scored 99%. Four
Oh,
kids worked full time and scored 99%.
wow.
Right? Almost like there was a good defiance in her that said,
Yeah.
"You will not try to tell me I cannot excel."
Yeah.
You know? So
Yeah.
if somebody's interested in going into that field, how would you share with them, take a leap?
Yeah. Honestly, real estate, I feel like because it's actually decently easy to get your license. Like once I actually started diving in to the schooling and the testing and things like that. I mean, the state test is hard and it takes time. It's a little overwhelming. Okay. I'll admit. But you can get through it within like 3 months. I
Okay.
think that's like the silver lining. If you can, I mean, I think that I shouldn't say everyone should get their real estate license, but we all buy and sell homes. If you were doing that, knowing a little bit more about that process and the transaction, and even able to save yourself funds as far as commission goes, I think it's really smart for people to get some of these licenses that it's like if you know how to if you knew how to fix your car, you would never need to take it to the mechanic. So,
So good.
yeah, if you knew how to buy and sell a home, then you would never need a real estate agent. But all of that said, agents carry a lot of a transaction. And so I'm like, it definitely would be worth hiring an agent to take care of it for you. There's so much stress. It's stressful, even, if you have an agent as a buyer or seller. So, okay, sorry, but your question was like if somebody wanted to go through, yeah, I mean, really practically, I would say do the classes online
Okay.
because, oh, this is going to sound bad, but a lot of the things that you learn in the class, you actually never use on the ground.
Okay.
It's really just memorizing facts so that you can pass a test.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but that is real. The bulk of real estate and being an agent is understanding the contracts and understanding negotiation, which are
Okay.
two things that you don't learn in the classes.
Okay. Okay.
So, like, getting your license is just like crossing a T and dotting an I. And then the quicker you can learn, like, negotiation and how to read through contracts and, make sure that you know how to fill those things out. Like, and then, like, having that, but then also being a really positive person with good people skills and good communication skills. Like, if those are things that you are good at, then you'll be a good real estate agent, I think.
That's good. I really like that you kind of broke down like the whys and the hows, but also articulated in simple terms. So you answered very well roundly, to kind of give, because we think of it, real estate will always be in demand, and so will art, right? And real estate will always up in value, and so does art.
Hmm.
They do. They just, how do what are, and if you look at some homes, say, my son lives in a home, one of my sons lives in a home that was built in 1915. And the fact
Wow.
that it's still standing, and the fact that there are so many original things in the home, you're just in
Hmm.
awe on how
Hmm.
construction was back then. It's a gorgeous home.
Wow.
Um, it's one of the just, yeah, it's just gorgeous, especially the
Okay.
floors and the staircase. Oh, it's just breathtaking.
Everything's real wood back then,
Yes,
you know?
yes,
And just the attention they put into crown molding and
yes.
yeah, everything's so manufactured these days.
Yeah, and
So
so
true.
now, what about you also, in the finance realm? Because to me, I just see that's like, you know art. If we think of art, art gave you that creative edge, right? Musical art gave you that creative edge. Learning different instruments gave you that creative edge. Also, like an entrepreneur, you didn't just stick with one instrument. You decided to learn different instruments, right? That
Yeah.
gave you that creative edge, right? So the ideal of being any kind of assembly worker, no, negative, that could never be anywhere in your brain, right?
Yeah.
And so share with us a little bit about how you delved into the financial realm.
Yeah. So, it's so funny because all the things, I mean, obviously I'm just living my life but then when it's all, we're talking about it like this, I'm like, wow, there's just so many different areas that, I'm in. But, with financial consulting, so I think because I had to learn on my own, like the school of hard knocks with all of this, um, it really gave me a passion to help people with their finances. And specifically, I work with debt reduction. So people with credit card or personal loan debt, they're paying so much in interest and, they have really high monthly payments and things like that. Um, getting them on a plan that gets them through the debt, and then also saving money and with their emergency fund and things like that, has been really rewarding. I mean, I have people crying on the phone with me, and
Oh,
I went into that. A lot of that really had to do with the fact that real estate is a commission-based position or job.
okay,
And so if you're not closing, you're not paid.
okay.
And there's a lot of work that goes into a transaction before you're ever paid. And so I had to get something that was in the same type of realm of work that would pay my bills. I'm living here
Yeah.
in California. It is not cheap. We have sunshine tax. We've got, I mean,
Is
rent
that
is through the
real?
roof,
Wait,
you
wait, wait.
know.
Sarah, is that real? Do they call it a sunshine tax? Is that
Oh
real?
yeah, we
Oh,
call it that. We
oh,
call
oh,
it
okay.
that. But it just rained. We just had so many storms, so everyone's talking about, I pay too much sunshine tax for this Seattle weather. So,
Yeah, that's really good because if you think of it, finances could cause an enormous amount of stress on people.
absolutely.
Really. I mean,
Oh, they do.
and so if you think of like, how would you go back? Maybe I don't want to say that. Okay, have you ever, I'm going to pose it this way. Have you ever thought about, okay, so you know how there's Dave Ramsey? Oh gosh, this is so good. Oh my gosh, this is so good. This is so good and it's for you. This is so good and
Okay.
it's for you. Dave Ramsey is not the program for ages 5 through 10. He does not have the curriculum for 10 through 15. And he
Mhm.
doesn't have the educational background or the workbooks for ages 15 to 20. Okay? There
Mhm.
needs to be something developed.
Mhm.
I'm going to just hand that off to you. Something needs to be developed.
Mhm.
A course needs to be developed, whether it be like intro to finances or, teaching a child about, old school clock, right? You got the old school,
Mhm.
what does an actual clock look like, right? These elementary things, right? Or
Mhm.
dollars or savings. There has to be some kind of curriculum created or developed, right?
Mhm.
Let's see. If there's streets of gold and he owns the cattle on 1,000 hill, and Psalms 24:1 says, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, all they that dwell therein. Apparently, he has his stuff together. So if you have access to the creator of the entire universe and his omniscient brain, right? There has
Mhm.
to be some kind of course developed that would begin. Okay, there's also a saying that by the time a child is like in third grade in Sunday school, they'll hear about David and the lion's den X amount of time, right? They'll hear about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego X amount of time. There has to be something developed for children. There
I
really
love
does.
that. That's such a great idea.
There
Yeah.
has to be something developed.
Mhm.
Um, okay, that's the end of my thought.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's so true.
And meaning somebody
Yeah,
hasn't done it yet,
yeah.
right? Somebody
We
hasn't
talk
done
about
it
that a
yet.
lot. I think there's a lot of, I mean, I remember with my friends, and even all over the internet now, people talk about adulting, and they're like, "Wow, like we didn't learn any of this in school," balancing our
Yes.
checkbook, like figuring out, things like that, So, I think, at least when you're older, I think they're starting to develop more of that thing, but you're right, from a young age. Yeah, we definitely need to be taught more. And I think, I mean, what was coming to mind too, as you were saying that for me, like as a Christian, so there's this humility and almost like an embarrassment of pursuing wealth because
Mm.
of that scripture that says, you can't serve God and money. And so, we can take that scripture and misinterpret it and go, okay,
Mm-hmm.
I have to um, give up everything, all earthly possessions, and um, sell everything and give it all to the church and then follow Jesus with, in that way, and um, it's like the answer to both of those things are yes. Like God does want all of us. He wants us open-handed and, give generous and serving him in everything, And so for me as a Christian, like growing up and, um, constantly trying to position myself so that I would do that. Like I want to give everything to Jesus. So, I'm not going to pursue money, I'm going to be pursuing these other things. Well, there was a disconnect because I was getting into debt. I had to pay for my life. And so, you know, I wasn't making enough money. Unfortunately, I worked for a church for a brief amount of time or a couple years. And I was pursuing things, nonprofit type direction and stuff like that. And I mean, which all of that would have been really good, if there were dual income or whatever in the home. But like again, and I've been open to that my whole life. So, and seeking that and whatnot and praying about that. It's just not my story yet. And so, um, I had to pay for my life, and like get debt free. And so my pursuing of, obtaining wealth and kind of like breaking through whatever this mental block was for me, so that I could pay my debt and build wealth and save and is very honoring to the Lord,
That's right. That's
There's
right.
so many different stories. We have to take the Bible in the full context too. It's like the man with the 10 talents, the 5 talents, the talents, sometimes we can look at that and think that that is actual talent,
Uh-huh.
like, oh,
Uh-huh.
she has 10 talents, she can do this
Uh-huh.
or whatever. But talents were money. Talents were money back then.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Mm-hmm.
what Jesus was talking about. I mean, he talks about money so much in the Bible, and we hear preachers say that from the pulpit. But as a young person developing and trying to get my worldview or my Christian view of money like correct, like I want to honor God in everything. So whether that's with money or without, what does that look like, And I think like these practical steps about multiplying your finances, sowing seed, tithing, being generous, and things like that. When you're not making any money, you can't do those things. And when you're in debt,
Mm-hmm.
you can't do those things either. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm.
I think something that should be encouraged more, I think even in Christian circles, is like make money,
Mm-hmm.
make
Mm-hmm.
bread,
Mm-hmm.
not
Mm-hmm.
over God. Don't do it over cert, but pursue God in like, okay, Lord, what is it that I can do that's going to honor you and provide for life and things like that. And so yeah, it's a big conversation. And, at the end of the day, we have to be obedient. And, I've definitely made mistakes, but I've also learned from them and I'm growing and, I feel very happy to be learning and growing.
No, I think that's great. I mean, when you first started to share about, you gotta choose God over money. I wished I had something that would go across the screen that says, these are some of the lies that they tried to get you to drink in Sunday school. Okay, these are some of the lies they tried get you to drink in Sunday school, right? The Kool-Aid, drink this Kool-Aid in Sunday school, right? Because one of the guys that I interviewed is John Bates with John Bates Ministry. Okay. And he said X amount of years ago, he went to Pakistan. When he was in Pakistan, they were at this huge crusade where there was going to be 500,000 people there. Okay. Or a million, right? It was a big crusade. Well, he was walking around with his spiritual mom, who is Marilyn Hickey. And Marilyn, and he shares this in the interview, he said, and Marilyn Hickey had a conversation with him and said, John, I want you to look around. Where do you think these rugs came from that everybody's sitting on? Where do you think the lights came from? Where do you think the electricity is being provided through? Right? And he was like, well, I guess different people just brought them. Or I guess different pastors were just contributing. And she said, no, I've paid for it all. And she said, he said that was a game changer in his life to figure out, how do I become more lucrative, right, financially? How do I become more financially lucrative so that I have the resources to do different things, right?
So good.
So I think, Sarah, I honestly think a whole curriculum needs to be developed for your traditional modern day educational system and within the walls of a CHURCH. Because if he said, if in the Bible itself, if he said to possess and take dominion, but we've been instructed to go to church 9 times a week, well, how are you going to be productive? How are you going to be productive if you have to go? I am so not a believer of going to church 9 days a week. I really, that is not me, because I've got to invest in my family. That's number one to me, is my family. So gosh, I could see you doing this, Sarah, because we need, this is adulting, Sarah. Right? This is straight up adulting, right?
Yeah.
And, I even talked to this, I don't have one of her books, which makes me think I need to have her books right here now. This gal who was downloaded a book overnight. Another gal I interviewed, she was given a pattern for a shoe that hadn't been on the market yet overnight for children.
Wow, that's cool.
Right, overnight.
Amazing.
And now all of her shoes are in Nordstrom's all across the nation.
Oh,
right?
That's awesome.
And so just downloaded to people.
Yeah. I loved what you said too about just being more resourceful, because I released a music video last October, and that costs money.
Yes.
And I had to pay for that. And it was something that God put in my heart, this message that I wanted to communicate. I had a song that I felt like really communicated kind of the temperature of what was going on socially. And, it's important to me that, even if 5 people watch the video, that I'm able to be creative and, put together these things. And so, that kind of stuff, especially art, when you're not famous or, have a huge following, it costs money to produce, and even books and stuff like that. Time costs money. So to be able to take off of work and focus on another project, you have to have money to be able to do that,
Right.
And so,
And you know what I just thought of right now is that, and this is going to be different. I'm going to have you share something, but I'm going to give you the prelude of what I want you to share. Okay. So, oh, that's so funny. I have somebody else's business card up here. I didn't even realize it was going to say this, but his business card says, I teach people how money works. How funny is that?
Oh, cool.
It's a card that I got recently, but is what I wanted to. I got to find another visual. One of my granddaughter's books. So I had seen a funny ad that was shared. Our whole family, we're a big family. We're called the Rainbow Tribe. Okay, and somebody had shared a little comic strip, and the comic strip was a daughter who was at a book signing, and then the parents were standing there, and in a little cloud above the parents, it said, "Oh gosh, if we knew you were going to become an author, we would have been better parents." Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want
Never
you
know.
to share with parents, how do they allow your story to be your story without taking anything personal? Because that's going to give your generation the freedom to be able to share life, but yet bless the parental units at the same time. So,
Yeah.
what would you say to parents?
Um, I think I would just want to encourage the parents because every parent wants the best for their children. So, everyone is really genuinely doing their best. And I know my parents did that. They gave us everything that they could that was their best. And no parent is perfect. No family unit is perfect. There are going to be mistakes made. And I mean, we've heard this a million times, but your generations, like if your grandparents were here and then the parents were here standing on their shoulders, then the next generation is going to be standing on their shoulders. And we should be doing that. So it would be a shame for a parent to feel um, bad that their child had to learn something, like beyond what they have taught them. No, that we should celebrate that. And, that's all about just confidence and not feeling insecure about yourself and like what you were able to give. I mean, the fact that today, in this day and age, a parent has been there for the whole time that you were raised, like you need to be congratulated for that. So yeah, I would just say to parents that, don't feel insecure or down if your child starts talking about the thing that they have learned because maybe you weren't able to be strong in that particular area for them. And that's completely okay. And there's a lot of love and a lot of loving parents, and there's a lot of strengths out there that parents have instilled in their children. And um, we're all doing the best that we can. And so, you know, I just wouldn't like really worry about that, I guess. But um, as far as like teaching the next generation, you know, uh, I definitely think we just simply need to get better at encouraging Christians, Christian young people to make money. I think it's good.
Yes.
I think it's healthy.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yes.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
because we do want people to go into ministry 100%. We need people working for churches and leading ministries. Absolutely. But like, hello, even watch me butcher this. Peter, right? He was a tent maker. Was it Peter?
Yes. So
Okay.
Paul, I don't know. Yeah, just
I know. Was it Paul?
sounds. Paul and Silas were tent makers. Paul and Silas.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I promise I went to Bible college
Yeah.
and did all the internships. And I read my Bible every morning. But I don't know, whatever reason that is.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant.
Yes.
Okay.
He made tents. So he in so many writings in the New Testament, they're like, hey, I don't need anything from you, but God's going to bless you if you bless me. I mean, I think that's the type of life we should live as ministers is giving. And so there's no shame in having a side hustle as a pastor. I think it's amazing. You're super blessed if you don't need to be doing, or if you get paid a full salary from a church. And I am not, I have no ill feelings about anything like church. I'm not that person. I love um, all structures of church.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Meaning, like, I think it's so amazing, just everyone who has given their life to God and are struggling to make ends meet. And, like, I think that God does bless them and, like, bring bread and things like that. So, anyway, we all just have a different journey, and it's all about just obeying Jesus. And what you feel that God is putting on your heart to do, just do that with your whole might. And with money, we shouldn't be ashamed to go make money and honor God with it.
That's right. That's right.
That's everything in a nutshell.
Yeah. No, no, that's really good because let's think of it, okay? So if and I trust me, I love my pastors. They know I love them, right? All my pastors I've ever had from 1984 till present, I've loved them all. I've learned an enormous amount of life skills, biblical principles, the whole nine yards, right? I am sold out to King Jesus, period. Okay, but if we think of it, um, how much has it been taught through, I'm going to use the word religiosity. I don't like the word, but I have to use the word, right?
Sure.
You've alluded to how much has it's been taught through religiosity that don't do the money thing, just do the Jesus thing and be broke. Well, that's not beneficial, right? So you've got all these different people that are not, I'm going to use this word, inundated with religiosity, who are going out and being workers in the field, who are going out and partnering together and developing things that need to be developed in the world, right? While everybody's shacked up in a club or shacking up in a club over here. I need to do another Bible study. No, I can't come help do this. I need to do another Bible study. No, I can't come help do this. And you're just like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
this is really good. Um, because it's through your creativity in music, right? It is through a need that you decided to go into real estate, and in seeing, what it costs over here through music, where real estate could take someone, and the benefits of it, and now through being a financial consultant. To me, that's like wisdom after wisdom after wisdom you've walked in. Honestly, Sarah.
Oh, thank you. I could only attribute that to, honestly, God's grace.
Uh-huh.
So, but thank you. That's so sweet of you. Yeah.
But you chose to make the steps, right? So when the thought was presented to you, wait a minute, maybe I should go into real estate, you could have chosen to abandon that thought, right? To go into, because your desire to go into being a financial consultant, yes, you wanted to benefit, but also you wanted to help other people because you shared yourself. You've had people cry because of being overwhelmed by financial debt.
Hmm.
So I think there's more to you than you really see.
Oh, thank you so much. So sweet.
Yeah. So give us you got about another minute and a half. In a minute and a half, what do you want to leave viewers with?
What a wonderful question. I kind of had in my heart, like one thing, that very thing, just like what would be the nugget that I would want to leave with someone today? And if somebody has stayed and watched this entire interview, I promise you it was worth it for this nugget. And that is we we the joy that's found alone in the presence of God, in the presence of Jesus, is the best thing in life that not only can we tap into, but we need to guard. So no matter what we're doing, where we're going, what season of life we're in, all of us can tap into joy. If we have Christ in us, we can access true joy at any time. And all that is coming into his presence with thanksgiving in our heart, speaking our thanks, giving our praise, having our moment of just, God, thank you. I'm so grateful. I'm grateful for my journey. I'm grateful for all the lessons you've taught me. I'm so grateful for what I have right now. Even the things I don't have right now. Thank you so much that, we're here together having this conversation, staying in that place of gratitude. The Bible says that he inhabits the praises of his people, and in his presence is the fullness of joy. So if anyone feels like they're lacking joy, we can access God's joy at any time by opening up our hearts, speaking thanksgiving, speaking praise. He promises to inhabit that space, give us his presence, like we were talking about at the beginning of this interview.
That's right.
That's our home. We get to be in his presence and experience true joy. It's not going to come in knowing all the perfect things to do with our finances, putting out all the creative art that we can, fixing our lives, or, having all the right mindsets. Like, there's no way, his joy is like our biggest gift, and we can access that at any time. We can be happy, we can be content, we can be totally full anytime, like right now in this moment. And that's all just being in his presence and accessing his joy. So if I leave anything, tap into the joy of God. Like, tap into that on a daily basis. Access that. Christ paid the biggest price ever so that we can have that. And that would be it.
That's amazing, Sarah. Thank you so much. And I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really, really look forward to everything else that's going to unfold in your life, which I know are going to be big and huge and amazing. Big, huge, and amazing.
Thank you.
That could be your next album. Big, huge, and amazing.
I love it.
Big,
Okay.
huge, and amazing. So,
sign me up.
Yeah. So for all of our viewers, we want to thank you for coming to this episode of Sagionic 1027. Until the meantime, until our next interview comes up, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee always. Blessings. Bye. Oh, why did my thing not go on? There you go.